My name is Chris, and I'm here to say this is the podcast introduction. And I ramble a whole bunch, and I stammer, and I'm just gonna straight up just talk just before the podcast, like I'm introducing something. This episode has one moment where the door gets open, and it's like, whoops. And then another moment where somebody comes in to start their day, and the phone rings. So it's full of like little things that just happen in studios. So it makes sense. I really enjoyed the chat. Like, these visits are one of my favorite part of my week. And this week's going to have a few of them. So I hope you enjoy. And if you feel so inclined, it always helps a ton if it gets shared on social media. If you really like my podcast, always feel free to send me a message. Feel strongly encouraged to send me a message, because honestly, on my end, I look at the screen and it's like, oh, 60 people from Canada listen to it. I don't know if it's like my mom and dad just press and repeat over and over or what. So, I mean, if you listened, let me know, because it's really, really nice to know somebody's on the other side. All right, enjoy.
Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to episode 48 of the Lifestyle Chase. Here I am joined by Jaime, McKeag, Reber. Reber, there we go. Okay, I got it.
You're so focused on the McKeag that you...
I was like, I'll get one of them right.
Yeah, no worries.
So how's your day going so far today?
Good. I've been at the studio since 6:15. We have a sunrise yoga class that I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I went for coffee with one of my students / friends and crushed some paperwork, and now I'm here with you.
Nice. When do you have to wake up in the morning?
I have to be up 4 mornings of the week at 5, but I'm a natural early riser, so I'm usually up between 4 and 4:30.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long have you had that as your routine for when you wake up?
Definitely more consistently since January. I used to only teach 6 a.m. yoga twice a week at my Leduc location. And then we switched it to 3 times a week. And now I do 2 times a week in Leduc and 2 times a week here. Plus, I've included, since January, a pretty consistent workout and running schedule along with my classes. So I would say that's normal, is 4 times a week. That being said, Saturdays and Sundays, when I am allowed to sleep until 7 or 8, I wake up at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sunday morning baths have become my new self-love.
I understand that. I've had to implement procedures like that for myself. If you could compare the cultures of the Leduc studio and the downtown studio, how would they compare?
Oh, wow. So our community is so different at each location. Both of them are beautiful. But we have 2 different sets of social media for each of them, because how we market to each of them is different. Our downtown location is a little bit on the younger business professional side or students. I would say our median age is early 30s, late 20s, whereas our Leduc location, people have already moved out of Edmonton. So now they're in Leduc, they're settled down, they're more family oriented, still obviously business professionals, but our age is so varied that we have students to, I think our oldest member is maybe 78 or somewhere along there anyways, but they're quite dedicated. Whereas our downtown location, we have a dedicated community, but we're we complement people's workout routines. We complement the runners, we complement the CrossFitters, we complement the ex-warriors and the Spartan racers. They come here for their downtime, whereas in Leduc, we are their workout. If they run, if they do CrossFit and stuff like that, they're still very dedicated to their yoga practice. So there's a little bit of a shift in mentality in what brings them to their mat, and it's pretty neat, actually. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because like I've come here for a few classes, mostly using like my FitSet membership.
Yeah.
And it's always been to like be my downtime or to complement what I'm doing like outside of yoga. And that's just what yoga is for me. It's like when usually I correlate yoga with times of stress.
Yeah.
When I'm like really stressed, yoga is kind of like my back pocket trick that I utilize that not a lot of people do. Like certainly someone who practices yoga regularly will, but then there's other trainers, not to say that trainers don't do yoga, but a lot of trainers don't do yoga as often as what they could.
Yeah.
And it's such the thing that I find the most helpful is the breathing cues done in yoga are concise. They're very clear. And sometimes we can't be reminded to breathe more, and like we can't be reminded enough times.
Yeah.
Like there's not too many ways to cue how to just like get oxygen into your system and relax and sort of get back to that baseline, so you're not always like firing on all cylinders. And the mobility is great as well.
Yes. Yeah. It definitely helps. Even so, I've started to really create a more focused workout routine in the last year, and for myself, like I come from yoga, so now to switch to focusing a lot of energy into running and into weightlifting and boot camps and such, and now I'm like, oh wow, like I need yoga in a completely different capacity than what I used to need yoga. But I still need yoga.
Everybody has like their thing that's like in their wheelhouse, like they can never sort of leave. Like for myself, a lot of people ask like why I just keep going to spin classes, and I think it's just something that I can't really leave. Like doesn't
like a
matter.
pillar.
Yeah, it's what kind of got me in the industry, and it kind of keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
And it's where I've met a lot of my closest friends. What was your first yoga class like?
My first yoga class. So I used to work at a spa in Sherwood Park, and there was a yoga studio that was right behind us. And some of the girls that I worked with, they kept going to hot yoga, and I was like, what is this? And I had done yoga when I was 17. I used to teach Pilates actually when I was 17 in Fort McMurray, and then I would go to yoga, but I didn't really get it, like it didn't land. So when they were talking about going to hot yoga, I was like, oh, well, another accelerated version of something, let's do that. And I remember my first class walking in, and it was dark and it was serene, and we all moved together and everyone was breathing, and I sweat so much, like more than I've ever sweat in my life. And I remembered like laying there being like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to teach this one day. But I didn't go to yoga for any like spiritual reason. I didn't start it. I had a shoulder injury, and someone was like, yeah, do yoga because you're just breaking yourself at the gym more. Like, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I think I was like 22 or 23 when I took my first class. So and now like I can't even live without it. I'm like, oh, I was such a cranky person before. And now I'm like, oh, I'm not as cranky.
What was your first thing that you did to get into fitness? Was it because you were saying you were doing Pilates before, right?
Yeah. So so I'm actually originally from Fort McMurray, and when I was 16, a gym called Phoenix Fitness and Tanning opened up near my house, and I think I was working at like Superstore or something before that, and I was like, oh, I want to work closer to home. Working at a gym would be cool. And so I started working front desk, and then I ended up managing. I think by the time I was 17, I was managing the gym. So then I started teaching Pilates and became a massage therapist, and then just kind of all spitfired from there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson that you learned in like your first year of being in the fitness industry?
Oh wow. That was a really long time ago. I used to find it so fascinating, especially working at a gym in Fort McMurray, the differences in purpose for why people went to the gym. And for myself, like I would work out with bodybuilders because that's who was working out when I would work out, and like I could learn so much from them. But at the same time, I would work out with non-bodybuilders who are more cardio focused and be like, well, this is what my body needs as well. And there was just like, in all honesty, I felt a little lost at 17 working out with all these people. I'm like, what's the right way? Are we supposed to be more cardio focused? Are we supposed to be more weight focused? And then I just kind of figured out that everyone needed their own path on it. And so that was really cool. And I started to focus a lot more on the recovery of it. That's why I went into massage therapy, because I wanted to help people who were kind of overdoing it, or to help people reach their goals by complementing their workouts and stuff. Yeah.
What was it like to grow up in Fort McMurray? Like, I feel like there would be some obstacles or challenges, but then I might be totally wrong. Like, it might have been the best growing up ever.
You know what? I think that Fort McMurray gets a pretty bad reputation because of how transient the community was / maybe is. I think it's calmed down quite a bit. My entire family is still in Fort McMurray. Like, I have 3 brothers up there. My dad's up there. My stepdad still goes up there for work. My father-in-law still goes up there for work. I loved growing up in Fort McMurray. I mean, at 17 years old, I was managing a gym. I was making really good money. A lot of my friends were making really good money, so we had really good toys. I mean, we snowboarded all winter. We dirt biked all summer. Our snowboarding hill was, looking back now, I realize how blessed we were with like Vista Ridge. It was actually a pretty sweet hill. But if you wanted to be outdoorsy, like you could go for a hike, you could float down the river, you could do so many things that we were like, if only we were close to the mountains, or like you're very secluded up there. But if you want to find a good time, like you can. Now, that being said, you hear about a lot of like drugs and stuff like that, but I've been here since I think I moved here when I was 20 or 21, and you hear about the same things here that you would hear about in Fort McMurray. So it's just what you hear about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's totally all about perspective, because I think it was something like 12 years ago I went on a family vacation and we went to Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
And we checked out the oil sands and we checked out town. And like it did not seem like what everybody makes it out to be. It seemed like just sort of like a quiet but busy town.
Yeah.
Like a different vibe than something like Edmonton, because Edmonton just has a big population.
Yeah.
But I kind of noticed that I just kind of felt like it was in its own sort of bubble, not in a bad way, but just that you really embrace the feel of being in Fort McMurray.
Yeah. Fort McMurray has such like a little big town vibe. Fort McMurray, like it doesn't really have like small towns that surround it the way that Edmonton does. So there are 3 high schools. So you pretty much know everyone, or you know someone who knows someone. So it was kind of cool. Like, you know, if you ended up working for someone, you're like, oh, I know your cousin, I know your brother. Or I think my brother used to hate it when he first started working, like I think he worked at McDonald's, and be like, oh, are you Jamie's little brother? And he's like, oh. But even like my husband actually grew up in Fort McMurray too, but we didn't meet until after he'd already lived down here. So, but we still had like mutual friends, and we still like knew a bunch of people, and be like, oh yeah, I know Jordan Reber, or same thing. Like we would, like it's just like a small big town. There's so many people, but everyone knows each other. So it was kind of cool. I don't know if it's the same way now. It's been a few years, but that's kind of how it always felt growing up.
Even feeling that more and more with Edmonton. Like,
oh, the fitness community is
it's crazy.
So, and like the yoga community and the fitness community, like I've had people like, oh yeah, I've heard about you. I'm like, really? From where? I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I'll run into other trainers that I knew in another part of my life, and I'll run into just different people that like maybe I worked with them at like a camp in Sylvan Lake or something, and maybe they're not like a fitness professional, but they reconnected with me through like something that I put on an event or something like that, or now they're listening to my podcast, and it's just so crazy because there's a lot of people in Edmonton, but then it doesn't feel like there's that many. Yeah. Because it feels like we can go anywhere and run into somebody that we know, or somebody that knows somebody that we know.
Yeah. I will 100% say that Leduc is a little bit more so than Edmonton. My husband did some of his high school in Leduc, and then just being in the business community and then knowing all of his friends in Leduc, it's a little bit more like whenever we go somewhere, we're like, oh hey, oh hey, oh hey. In Edmonton, I've been at this, like, our Aurora location downtown. We've been open for 2.5 years, and it's definitely starting to become more like that, where we get to see people, and there's so many cool events. And I find that the events in Edmonton are just fantastic, and you get that community feel, which is, it's so lovely.
Yeah. Edmonton's good at embracing that.
And supporting each other, especially like as a young female business owner. There's so many of us, and everyone likes to help each other up. That I found, anyways. It's nice.
Well, I kind of believe that what's going on in our head tends to influence what happens towards us or around us. So if you kind of agree with that, what are your ways to kind of keep that solid? Because you're running businesses, you're in the fitness industry, you're a female. There's all these things that are kind of working against you, and you have to work really hard at being positive, because that's what this industry is all about. Like, if we ever lose our positive, we're screwed.
Yes, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes it feels like in the moments of weakness where we're not as positive, it's almost like people are like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not happy? You have everything. And I'm like, I am happy. It's hard. Yeah. It is really hard. So for myself, and to keep up my, I guess, positivity, that's really what brought me back to fitness again. Like yoga, if we were to separate yoga and fitness, for the last 2.5 years, or I guess the 1.5 years before, I focus mostly on yoga, because that's what I do. I teach yoga, so that's where my focus should be. I should be as flexible as I should be. I should be able to do handstands, which I still cannot do flipping handstands. But I really focused for the first 1.5 years of being a business owner on yoga, and just honestly just trying to make it.
Yeah.
But in 2018, we definitely went through a few very unfortunate deaths in our family, and it really shook me to my core and made me realize how disconnected I had become from my family, from my friends a little bit, and from anything that wasn't business related. So I'd started to lose some of that, maybe even passion. So I decided late 2018 that I had to take something back for myself. So fitness, and I started running. One of my really good friends, he runs, and he does these ex-warrior races and Spartan races, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do something like that, just something for me, something to encourage me to get back into it. And I found through running and through starting at boot camps and just focusing more on the strength and the endurance of fitness as well as yoga, kind of brought me back to that high energy, high positivity. If I can climb up that hill, then I can climb up a business hill. It kind of brought me back into what I'm capable of doing. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Oh, it completely makes sense. Yeah. I find that in my life, if I really test my physical limits, then I'm able to find that I don't have as many limitations in my life as I thought that I did.
Yeah.
If I can get stronger, and whether that be being really strict about my nutrition to make that happen, then I realize that just certain mental tricks or mental habits that I can actually work on can make me more successful in the pursuits that I have.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be situations where somebody says a physical goal is just not possible, or it's not feasible, or it's not worth working on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the same for a mental goal. And if you can prove to yourself that you can do it, it's just a matter of grit and determination, then you're more likely to achieve it.
Yeah.
Because you honestly, you could probably do anything. You just have to really, really, really believe it.
And try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have found in the last 6 months or so, since kind of taking time for myself and taking time to work on myself. And I think also because I combine fitness activities like the running or the boot camps or the weight training, like I combine that with my friend time. Like, hey, if you want to hang out with me, we are going to do something fun. But it's really opened my eyes as to like what can happen if you just try. I've never been afraid of trying things in business. I've never been afraid of trying things in yoga because I think I've always been confident in that. But I will say, like, with fitness or running, or I've always been like, I'd never be able to run 10K. Well, we ran 10K this year for an ex-warrior race, and it was minus 23 outside. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I sat in the parking lot with my friend Sandra, and we were both like, how important is this to us? Because it's minus 23 outside. And I did it, and I was super pumped about it. And that right there, that when I was like, sometimes you just have to do things. Yeah. Even if it's minus 23 outside, and you would have never in a million years, especially if I spoke to my 16-year-old self and said, I'm going to do a 10K race in minus 23, I would have been like, no. But now, like, I found if I just try, it's been amazing what I've been capable of doing once I've just given myself the opportunity, the permission to fail, but the opportunity to try.
What's the failure that's happened to you in business that's been like the hardest to have that attitude towards? Like sometimes people take failure as like, this is it, this is the end, this is where we draw the line. And sometimes, well, if they can get themselves out of that state. Yeah. But it's just such a challenge. So what was the time that was the biggest challenge?
So I know exactly what moment it was. And I remember sitting on the floor of one of my studios with my husband and being like, why do I do this? And I think the biggest part of that was delusion. Everyone, when you go into business, everyone's like, I'm going to go into business and I'm going to work for myself so that I can take vacations when I want. I can do whatever I want when I want. And that is the biggest load of crock. And if you want to be a business owner and you think you're just going to have all of this freedom right off the bat, that is not real. Yeah. So, I had this thing in my head where it was like, okay, after 2 years of business, I'll be able to take like a solid vacation. I'm going to work really hard to this time. And then I'm going to take a really good vacation and take this time off and go do this adventure that we had planned. And like 2.5 weeks before, when I'm like sitting there and I'm looking at numbers and I'm looking at the reality of it, we had to pull out of a trip that we'd been planning for a year. And that was like so hard.
Oh, sorry.
That was super challenging because it was like, well, why do I do what I do? But when you have 35 people relying on you to pay, to have the yoga classes, to have massages, to have 2 buildings, it was a little bit of a temper tantrum, like I want to be a business owner and I want to go on vacation and I should be allowed. But that was really hard to be like, after two years of busting it, and I still didn't feel comfortable leaving my company for 2 weeks because we just weren't there yet. Yeah. That was really hard. Especially when, the people around you are constantly, you're a business owner. Take the time off. Do like.
Yeah, it's really easy for people to say that.
Yeah, and they're like, well, or like I had to give up ball. Like I used to play ball once a week, and people would be like, well, you make your own schedule. Why can't you play? You should still be able to play. And I'm like, well, I don't have anyone to work that night. Yeah. So that's a night that I have to work. So that was, but like, so mostly that big vacation was really hard because we'd put so much effort into planning it and we were so excited. And then to be like, I'm sorry, we can't do it. And to pull out on other people who were involved, that was really hard. Yeah.
How did the other people involved react to that?
They were very disappointed, but they're my family. Yeah. They understood, and it ended up being for the best because one of the family members that I mentioned before who had passed away, they passed away shortly after we made that decision, and their funeral was during that time. So we would have had to not go anyways. But they were supportive. They were very disappointed, but they were very supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to have that kind of person in your inner
Yes.
circle. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I can't really complain. Like, our family is so, like, our family and friends are generally very, very good. My husband, he's wonderful. He definitely has his moments where he's like, what do you mean you have to work the weekend again? And I'm like, yes. Just recently someone broke their ankle or someone broke their wrist. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So, but in general, people are usually pretty understanding, but yeah.
Totally. So I want to know, how did you and your husband meet?
Oh, so that's actually really funny. When I was in high school, I decided to become a massage therapist, and I was dating a friend of his named Mitch. And when we would come down, I actually had to come down to Edmonton for my massage training, so I had to come down every third weekend, and we would stay at his place, at Jordan's house. And so I met Jordan through Mitch, and me and Mitch didn't date very long. We had a very amicable breakup, and then a year later I came down to Edmonton for St. Patrick's Day. I was 18, and Jordan's like, come party with me, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So we started dating after that, and we actually only dated for just over a year, and then we broke up. He moved to Fort McMurray, and then we broke up, and then we didn't speak for like 2.5 years. And then we became friends for 2 years, and then actually his friend Mitch, who I had known in high school, was like, you guys should get back together, like, you guys are so awesome together. So we did, and then I think like 2 years later we were engaged, and a year later we're married, and now we've been married for almost 4 years.
You need to buy Mitch a beer or something. Like,
Yeah,
he's the real MVP.
There you go. Yeah, no, he's awesome. He's pretty funny. He likes to take ownership for that every now and then.
That's awesome.
As he should, yeah.
So, like, what kind of empowered you to think, okay, like, this is kind of the path to go, like, 2 years hiatus, like, all this time separate, and all of a sudden, it's, oh, yeah, no, this seems like a fit?
We were so young when we met, and I've always been very independent, and so is Jordan. Like, we honestly have to work on making sure that we do stuff together versus, like, I think, some people have to work on making sure that they maintain their individuality within their relationship, where Jordan and I have always struggled to maintain our cohesiveness with our individuality. We've had times where we're like, hey, have we even hung out in like 3 months? But now we're way better at that. But so I think when we were young, we were both just doing our own thing, and then we would get mad at each other and be like, you don't hang out with me, or he commuted back and forth, and my schedule was slightly different than his, so I would get like, why don't you stay and hang out with me? And we were 18 and very dramatic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't ever want to hang out with me. So then, yeah, we just called it a quits. We tried to stay friends. It didn't really work. And then I took off to Edmonton. And yeah, we just didn't speak. I stayed friends, though, with his sister, Kelsey, and his mom. And I would still go and see them. I had no family when I moved here. So I would still go see them and hang out with them. And then, we both went into different relationships that ended however they ended. And when he was single, or he was like just free dating, he found out that me and Kelsey were still friends. So he was like, hey, let's go for coffee. I was like, oh god. Oh god. And then, but he was traveling and I was traveling, and I was in relationships and he was in relationships, and we just we tried to date a few times, but we were both just like, we're doing our own thing now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when he left Fort McMurray and moved home, like back to Leduc, that's when I was like, okay, we can give this an actual shot. I guess I could be in a relationship. Fine. I was very anti-relationship when I was young for a while. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's funny. It's neat to hear people's stories, because like, there's no formula for how to cultivate a relationship. Mm-hmm. And whether that's like a friendship or a marriage or like business or anything, there's no set way of doing it, and there's no, I don't know, you just kind of like follow what seems right and
Yeah.
kind of put some trust into it to some degree.
I think, and Jordan and I have spoken about this before, like, I think we always knew that we would eventually end up together. We just we always say, like, we had to break our hearts and break our lives a little bit before we were ready to appreciate what we had together.
Yeah.
The 2.5 years that we were traveling and hanging out and being friends, and like I was friends with his family, like those 2.5 years, I think we built something that was super strong as friends.
Yeah.
I knew all of his stories. He knew all of my stories. We call each other out for those stories all the time. There's no real secrets behind it. Like we've seen each other be the absolute shittiest human beings we've ever been, and we've seen each other at our best. And because of that, and because I think of our, long history and connection, we've always been able to be like, hey, you're being a jerk right now. Like, you're kind of repeating some of those poor habits that you've had when you were in your early 20s, kind of thing. Like, we can call each other out for that. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my own life, I found self-awareness has been like really critical to being able to understand somebody else. You need to be able to understand yourself first.
Yeah.
And for you, what's been the best way to learn more about yourself?
I would say that the kind of can of self-awareness was cracked open when I went into yoga teacher training. I would say that I was fairly self-aware before then. I traveled, and the cliche of like you find yourself when you're traveling, but I would say that's pretty legit. But I would say that the true self-awareness came when I took my yoga teacher training. You have to sit in it, and you have to really dive deep into feelings and emotions. So that definitely started it. I do a lot of reading, like self-awareness books. I hate calling them self-help books. They drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So self-awareness or self-empowerment books, hearing other people's stories, I find that super empowering. And then meditation, like taking time to sit, to ask myself, like, when I'm really angry and being a jerk, like, why am I really angry and being a jerk? But I like listening to podcasts and listening to books. I really love Audible books and reading books, but I really love Audible books because I commute between 2 studios. I just like to get my hands on other people's stories and other people's information and be like, yeah, I relate to that. Yeah, I'm a shitty person when that happens too.
Well, I mean, even just like making a space for other people's thoughts and other people's worries and other people's experiences, and just sort of like letting that soak in for a bit.
Yeah. And
practicing compassion and empathy, and seeing ourselves in other people's shoes more often than what we would normally do.
Yeah, I find I'm really open to, I'm not always open to business feedback. Sometimes I'm really challenging on that, but to emotional feedback. I'm very blessed with amazing communities at both studios that are full of individuals who are also working on their self-awareness. So for me to be like, hey, this situation happened, this is how I felt, what do you take from that? Am I falling into habits? Am I breaking down in this way? Or did I make the right decision here? Not necessarily looking for someone to tell me what to do, but being like, as another person in the self-awareness path, how do you take this situation? What do you, and being in a yoga community, especially 2 yoga communities, where you get people who are like, they want to talk about that, it's awesome. It's super cool. Yeah. Yeah. My husband, we're slowly pulling him out of his shell. He's a talker and he feels so much, and it's awesome. But sometimes getting those words across aren't always very easy. And, it's your relationship. So sometimes I am not always the greatest at giving my emotional intelligence to him either. So being able to talk to other people who are on the same path, who are like, give me the nitty gritty, give me the dark, the dirty, like, give it to me. Like, I want to hear those thoughts.
Yeah.
Yes, I love those conversations. so good.
I completely agree. Like, I have a lot of people that can really talk about things that are, like, extremely meaningful.
Yes.
Not just, like, shooting the shit about just, how's the weather today? Did you like Game of Thrones? Like, actually...
However, Game of Thrones is... It's great.
Yeah, it was good. Sorry, Game of Thrones.
Sorry, Game of Thrones. But no, I agree. I find, especially in the last few years, like, I struggle with small talk more and more. I'm like, I don't want to know about the weather. I want you to tell me, like, how are you? What do you feel? What have you been feeling? Do you feel like you're chasing your goals? Do you feel like you're stuck? Like, where are you in your path? It's a little intense.
Yeah, but that's the way it's got to be with some conversations.
Yeah.
With that being said, like, you probably have some people that are your go-to, like your people. If you could list like 3 to 5 of them, who would they be?
Definitely my friend Colton. He's my running partner. He's great to call. My friend Kate, she actually runs our social media. She's my second go-to person. And I mean, obviously these 3 to 5 people would be outside of my husband. I have a group of girls. We did a Dream Chasers workshop last September, and their names are Michelle, Leona, and then Rachel. And it's so fun to get together because we're all kind of different ages, kind of different stages in our life. And when the 4 of us get together, it's like these real intense conversations that are so beautiful, and everyone gets heard, which I think is fantastic. And then I have, honestly, I could go on forever. I have some of the best clients ever. Alan Lines, Donna Little. I'm sure there's more, but I'm going to stop at those, I think, 6 people.
Well, it's cool. Like, I look at, when I think of, like, wealth or abundance, I think of people.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone that thinks, this dude is such a ridiculous goof. Like, does he ever pay his bills? But, like, honestly, if you have people that are doing things that are incredibly meaningful to them, and they are around you, and you get to see them several times a week, or you get to connect with them, or you get to talk to them for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, that is wealth, and that is abundance, because you find so much more purpose in what you do.
Yeah.
And, like, just the way it works is if you feel more purpose, then you can deliver more, and in some way, shape, or form, you will probably be successful.
Yeah. I think having a community, like, as humans, we are meant to be a part of communities. If you were to ever speak to my friend Kelsey Luce, like, I try and convince her to let me have an intentional community on her land all the time, because I feel like we should have community. That's why I open businesses. That's why I wanted to create beautiful spaces where people can come in and they're like, oh, I made it here. Can I please have a yoga class, have a massage? Please, someone just take care of me. Because I think that's important. And watching even people's physical demeanor when they walk into a space of community, when they've been so beaten by everything else in their life, and then to walk out just like an inch taller because they're like, okay, I feel supported and I am ready. Like, that's I think that's empowering, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the most meaningful instance of somebody walking into, let's say, just your life? And as far as, like, fitness goes, so it could be your studio, or it could be a studio that you've walked into, and they walked in and then they walked out, and it was such a difference that it's just stuck with you.
There are so many people that I've had the opportunity to watch transform over the past few years, but my one client / friend in particular, her name is Leona. I'd mentioned her. She started coming to me like 4 or 5 years ago now for massage, and now she comes in. Then she started coming in for meditation. She loved our conversations that we had during her massage. A little bit of a chatty massage therapist sometimes. And then she started coming in for meditation, and she did a meditation workshop. She did our Dream Chasers workshop, which gave her the confidence to start doing yoga once a week, which gave her confidence to start doing yoga twice a week, which gave her confidence now she takes our boot camp classes. And she's like on this like beautiful path of like transforming her healthy lifestyle, going from what she considers self-love to be, maybe with not great food, to, you know, my version of self-love is now I'm going to go take a yoga class Sunday mornings because that's what makes me feel good. And there have been days where she has walked in and where you can see that she's tired, that she's had a long week, she's had some, you know, things go on, and then when she leaves, she gives me a hug, and she's like, that is exactly what I needed, and she walks out. And as a business owner, that is how I get paid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, being a business owner in the first few years is not the most financially paying, right? So, but moments like that, conversations like that, compliments like that pays me. Or I have one other. There was a lady who came in to it was at our Leduc location as well, actually, but she came in very insecure about taking yoga because of her size. And I was like, no, like, here are the classes, you know, like, this is what would work best for you, like, let's start you here. And when she walked out, she's like, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. Not even if it was yoga, it could have been anything, it could have been spin, it could have been whatever, but seeing people come in afraid and then watching them be like, I'm gonna be back.
Yeah.
We just gave you a stepping stone in your life, because if you're gonna try this, what are you gonna try next?
It's
so
true.
I think that's cool.
Like, if you try one new thing, you're that much more likely to try all the other new things. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying these fitness things, like, it can create a very ambitious person out of someone who thought that they had everything, that everything was set and they were good with the status quo.
Yeah.
That is, like, my story through and through.
Yeah.
Like, I was at a point where I thought, okay, yeah, this will be fine. I probably just settle down and kind of carry on with my life. Yeah, float.
Yeah.
And then everything changed. And, like, if every year I can be, like, 20% better than the year before, I'm just going to keep it going. And I think that's a lot of people in fitness, or people that kind of take care of themselves first.
Yeah.
Because if we're self-aware to kind of know what our values are and what is really important to us and what makes us happy and what makes us feel joy, then we're more likely to chase it.
Yeah.
But if we're further from that, we don't know what it is and we don't know what direction to go.
One thing that we started talking about, I teach a chakra series twice a year, and in one of the classes we were talking about, I think, like, shame and guilt in it, but something that I brought up, it just came up organically, and now I, like, never let it go, but it's like, what happens when you dedicate a certain amount of time to taking care of yourself in the same capacity that you dedicate to other people? And now, in that setting, it was a lot of moms that I was teaching with, so, I mean, they take care of these little humans all the time, but I think that we, as humans, we're often self-sacrificing. We, you know, give everything to our job. We give everything to our spouse. We give everything to our family, our children, our friends. Like, there's always something that we slightly overly self-sacrifice for. But what if we just took, like, a moment to calculate, if you spent X amount of time or X amount of energy focusing that towards yourself only, if you dedicated that passion to yourself, what can come of it? And I think when we take time to better ourselves, it allows us to be better to other people.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, I have a friend that I chat with fairly regularly, and every so often he'll be like, dude, just take a nap. And the funny thing is, like, I'm wired to think that that I can't hold back on my ambition. Like, I'm not where I want to be, so if I just slowed down, then I'm not going to get further.
Yeah.
But it's so true, and, like, sometimes I might not realize, like, how much I could benefit from a nap.
Yeah.
And so I've sort of trusted this friend of mine more and more, that when he jumps on Facebook Messenger and tells me, hey man, take a nap, like, he doesn't know what I did that day at all.
Yeah.
But he's just like, take a nap. And then I'm, okay, I will take a nap. And then I take a nap, and, like, I give such a much better experience to my clients than I would have otherwise. Conversations that I have with like my friends and my family are that much more meaningful.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to just listen, but it takes so much more effort to like actually understand what they're saying and have something to give back in that conversation. I've caught myself so many times, and I've been sort of critical of myself as an interviewer. There's like little responses that I'll have, and I'll be like, makes sense, or totally, or awesome. And like, if you reflect back on past episodes, you can call me out on all kinds of little catchphrases that I have.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my friends last night, and like, she teases me all the time on like these things that I say. And it hit me that it bothers me so much that I could be so much of a better listener. And I think it's probably because maybe I'll go into an episode with so much on my mind that like I truly desire to hear what people are saying and have something that's equally valuable to give back. And then I catch myself slipping. But because I have such a desire to make it as meaningful as possible, it bothers me.
Yeah.
So being aware of these things and having people that can give you these constructive criticisms coming from a good place, and these little messages that are like, hey, take a nap, like it's so valuable. And it just basically goes right around to that whole community thing, like just having people to lean on and everything like that.
And who watch out for you.
Yeah, like people who are invested in you getting better, not as so much invested in leveraging themselves based on you. Because I've lived a lot of years where I had people in my life that if we went to like a party or something, and I started to catch them on it, they would put me down to make themselves look better. They'd be like, oh, this is Chris, he's shy, he doesn't talk much, super quiet. And like, granted, yeah, I can be quiet and shy, but that's not how you like introduce or describe someone who means something to you. Like if somebody means something to you, you pick out their best quality. You pick out something that gives a person a reason to get to know somebody. Nobody is going to be, oh, shy and quiet sounds like a hoot, like that sounds great, let's get to know them. Like, you gotta be around people who really like see what's sets you apart. Yeah. What makes a person great. Yeah. And you talked about travel, and I'm intrigued. Where's the coolest place you've traveled to?
I would say that the best trip that I did like almost 2 months in Thailand in 2012, and I went by myself. My brother was supposed to go with me, and he'd had an accident right before we left, so he couldn't go anymore, and I went anyways. I was on like a free and easy 40-day trip, and I learned so much about myself, and because it was like scheduled, I went places that I never would have went on my own. I remember coming back and everyone being like, oh, did you go to Koh Phi Phi? And I'm like, yeah, I did, but that was like one of my least favorite places. It was still great. The whole trip was great, but there were so many cooler places that I'd never heard of. There was like one island in particular that had like a very reggae feel. It was called Koh Lipe, and I loved it. It was so great. But then just recently in April, because we've accepted the fact that taking 2 weeks off away from the company is not a great idea at this time. We're just in so much growth. But my cousin was getting married. They got engaged on Christmas Eve, and they're like, we're going to Hawaii. And I was like, I could do a 5-day. I could take 5 days. I could go for 5 days. So we just actually went to Kauai, and that was, I feel like Hawaii is a little underrated, at least in my brain. I never had Hawaii on my like places I must go, because I mean, it's the States. It's like right there. We can go to Hawaii forever. But my cousin, that's where he wanted to get married, and we're like, okay, it's a cheap flight. We've got it on a seat sale. Why not? And I was blown away at how beautiful. We actually we camped while we were there. And actually, we booked our flights to the wrong island, so we actually slept. We slept on a bench outside of an airport the first night because that was too cheap to get a hotel. Yeah. I was like, we're only there for 7 hours. I'm not paying for a hotel. But the island itself was awesome. The hikes were beautiful. We did a day of surfing, And we did a day of surfing, I mean, we tried to surf for a day. It's so hard.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's hard. But I feel like in my brain I underrated what Hawaii could be, and it blew my expectations. So I think those two might be my favorite trips at the moment. Yeah.
I can really relate to that. Like, I have a tattoo of Hawaii on me, and it's just like, I've been there 3 times, and the very first time was like, hands down, probably, like, it ties with my trip to Costa Rica, but because this trip was honestly, we got the flights on a great deal because my friend's sister has worked for WestJet for quite some time.
Yep.
And we packed all this camping equipment.
Nice.
And we get there, we rent like a Jeep Wrangler, and we initially thought, okay, we're gonna set up a tent, and we only used the tent one night. And other than that, like, we were sleeping on beaches.
Yeah.
We slept on like fancy beaches where they have like guards.
Yep.
So we'd show up at like 11 p.m. and then leave at 4 a.m. so that we would avoid the guards.
That's so amazing.
And it was just like, the way I've always been like very straight-laced, never do anything wrong. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go to jail. We're sleeping on dirt. And it was just,
This is like, it's a U.S. jail, not a Mexican jail.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit comforting.
but it was like, it was so crazy. Like, on really nice beaches, and even the ones that were not like groomed.
Yeah.
Just like the beaches that's just how that beach is. Mm-hmm. And you can hear waves, and there's like crabs crawling all over the sand. Like, that freaks me out, but I mean, still, it's nature.
It's weird when you can like see the sand kind of move and you're like, am I hallucinating? Oh no, that's just tons of little crabs.
Yeah, I just kind of like look up, and I'm like, okay, if I look up, then I don't know what's around me, then I'm good.
The nice thing is they are definitely more afraid of you.
Yeah.
They get back in that sand so fast.
Yeah, if you like kind of stomp on the ground around you, it pretty well clears the
Yeah.
area. But it's just so crazy. Like, my friend is Filipino, so we can get like the local deals anywhere that we travel.
Yeah.
Because if you're like pasty white like myself, you really stand out.
Yeah.
But if you're of any darker ethnicity at all, and you can just really own it with your personality, you can get like the local shopping card everywhere. And so he's got like all the Hawaii cards in his wallet, so whenever he visits
I didn't even know that was
Hawaii,
a thing. That's so cool.
like, if you can like sell it,
Yeah.
you can get the locals deals.
That's so cool.
You kind of have to have a phone number on standby.
Yeah.
Like, if they go, well, what's your local number? Oh, here it is. But it was just such an experience, and it just kind of taught me like that these walls that I put around myself are just things that I put around myself. Like, I wasn't born with like parameters that I had to stay between. I just kind of made that up.
Isn't it? It's so funny how we do that to ourselves, like putting ourselves in boxes.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, I'm a fitness instructor now. This is the box that I must live in.
Yeah.
And it's so silly how we like box ourselves in. It's not even society that does it all the time. It's ourselves and the boundaries that we put on ourselves.
Well, even just when something doesn't work out for us, we're really good at drawing that really dark line in the sand of like, that's just where that ends.
Yeah.
But it's
This
not.
is what it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's not necessarily that that's where it ends. Like, people can have different scenarios pop up where you could attempt the exact same thing again and then be successful.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how like sort of self-awareness and believing in yourself can really pay off, and it's just something that I talk about more and more and more because I've learned that when I implement that with my clients, like if I invest time into just nurturing them believing in themselves and having that self-awareness and self-confidence, their lifts go up. And that's gold for a trainer.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really good with people and you're trying to develop people, then your people will honestly find more success because they're seeing more in themselves. Versus if you are just working on like writing things down on a list and it's got all this science background to it and it's been tried, tested, and true for many other people and it just works, unless your delivery is right for this person, it might not be as effective as what you would think it would be.
And do you find, like, I find I do this to not as bad in my first year of business. I used to take every, I don't know if I want to use the word failure, but every kind of idea or thought that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, I took it as like a personal defeat. And now I take it as, well, we maybe didn't market that properly, or it wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right audience, and we start analyzing it a little bit more. So it's not my idea or my fault that workshop didn't run. It was more, maybe it wasn't the right time, maybe the delivery wasn't effective, versus taking it on like, I sucked at that. Like, do you find that for yourself, like, as you grow in your fitness training? I'm totally turning this on you.
No, this is good. I like this because it's good to really like dive into that stuff. For myself, and a few scenarios are like, I've tried lots of things. Like, I've tried lots of different events and planned for 30 people, had like 6 people, thought that I'd get a whole bunch of people coming to boot camps and had like 2 people. And it's just, that's part of that process. And I'm really good at accepting that. But then I've had things that were just like the biggest goal I could ever focus on. Like the one, like, if I don't achieve it, it kind of seems like the whole world is going to end. And that is tough to navigate. Like when that thing just stops, like when it's just not going to happen. But I've learned to understand myself more and more through these instances. Like the number of gyms that I applied to when I wanted to be a trainer, like there was a lot. And it's been gratifying because there's gyms that I applied to that tried to recruit me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, well, now I'm in the industry and I run my own business, so it's just not the right fit for me at this time. That was nice.
That was nice, yeah.
But no, it's just I feel like I'll run into failure and it'll be really, really tough. But as I get to know myself better and better and surround myself with people who reinforce that, it's really something that almost foreshadows growth ahead. Like when something really, really stings, then I'm like, all right, I'm rubbing my hands together. I'm like, watch out, because I don't know what I'm going to come up with, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, I found for myself one tool that really helped me is I switched up my content on social media a lot to like a lot of like other business pages and, you know, people that I admire, role models that I find. And there's so many constant threads, but there's always like the thread of, you know, failure leads to greatness, or, you know, you have to fail in order to grow better, and like, you know, all of those cliche things. But I was like, okay, like switching up the content to be like, okay, this is normal. This isn't against me. This is a part of the process of growing. I'm going to be better for this.
Well, I think about, it's people's go-to inspirational people out there. And why are they inspirational? Why is Oprah inspirational? Why is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson inspirational? Like, the dude went to, like, a training camp for the CFL at Calgary. And I'm pretty sure he didn't make it. Now look at him. Like, he could have drawn that line in the sand and be like, show's over, time to go home and have some potato chips.
If he would have based his, you know, future acting career on the Scorpion King, he could have drawn the line right there and be like, no, I'm not good at this. Actually, my husband's just started watching Ballers like in the last 2 days because we had HBO for Game of Thrones, so he's like, I always hear about this. And like the first season, I'm like, you're still figuring out your groove there, hey Dwayne. But he gets really good eventually. But yeah, I love, there's like, you always see these posts that go around where it's like, where was Michael Jordan at 20? Where was Oprah and like showing like all of their failures about how, you know, she got cut from whatever thing, or Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. Like, and I'm like, see? Exactly what you're saying. Like, if we just drew the line at, well, I'm not good at that, and then never go past it, like that would limit us for sure.
Totally. And with one example that sort of stands out to me is like J.K. Rowling.
Oh, yes.
Like, to think of where she was at in her life when she started to write, and she just kept writing, and then like the Harry Potter books. Like, I'm a big Harry Potter fan.
Me too.
And when you kind of like really identify or analyze that message that's given out, like taking all the magic aside, because I know some people, they didn't get into it because of that magic thing, but like the theme or the overarching like message is essentially that like love wins. And she put so much into that and made such a big impact, when if she had drawn that line in the sand or like said like this is the end, that would have not happened. So it's we always need to find it in ourselves to kind of like keep pushing forward and keep finding like what's that next level, because things are going to be really tough and that line in the sand is going to seem really concise and very clear and blunt and like smack us in the face. But we always need to find that next level.
There's a quote that I love that says, I'm not breaking down, I'm breaking through. And I love that. I'm like gonna write it on my mirror in my bathroom, because I have found like in those moments of, especially in business, like those like, what am I gonna do? What's the next step? It's usually when, kind of like what you said, it's like something good's coming, like something fantastic is gonna come from this. And that's, I usually find it's like those failures that push us to be like, well, what can we do from here? And it's usually something super cool.
Absolutely, I agree. You talked about Audible books. What's your favorite one? What's one that kind of stands out to you in the last 6 months?
So I have 3. So I just like 3 days ago, I think, just finished The Execution Factor by Kim Perrell. That book, it talks a lot about like how to execute. Sometimes I'm really bad at follow through. But it talks about like what drives you. Like, are you driven by passion? Are you driven by relationships? Are you driven by action? And then the good and bad of that. And she actually has like a test on her website that like totally makes sense. So that one was really good. The other one is by Rachel Hollis, Girl Stop Apologizing. Yeah, it's her second book, Girl Stop Apologizing. She has another one, Girl Wash Your Face, but Girl Stop Apologizing, I felt resonated with me more. She talks a lot more about business. I thought that one was fantastic. I really connected with that one. And then there's another one. He's a bit of he's very intense, but it's Grant Cardone. I actually don't know how to say his last name, but he wrote 10X. And that book just found me at the right time in September when I was coming out of, a little bit of a lower, like, what am I going to do state? And his message is, you need to be doing 10 times more than you think that you should be doing to succeed. And now that sounds daunting and scary, but I was like, yeah, you know what? If I want to be a business owner and if I want to do this and I want to do that, I actually need to put some action into it. I need to get up early. I need to start working out if that's what makes me feel more high energy. I need to do these things that put me in the right path, and it's changed. I think it's made me like that book, I think, made me a better business owner. Yeah. I
like it. That's good. And it's just so important to like have things that promote growth and kind of help us with our reflection, because if we're just kind of in a quiet room like thinking to ourselves, that gets stagnant over time.
Well, and I feel like there's 2 big messages that are, especially being in a yoga community, that I get. It's either from the business community, it's like you're doing good, build, grow, go, and then from the yoga community, it's like calm down, settle down a bit, chill out, find your balance. So I struggled with that, especially like in the beginning of 2018 when we were going through like our family stuff, where I was like, so should I be go or should I be calming down? Like I don't know which one to go here. So finding a pretend work-life balance was really challenging. But then so reading that 10X book, where it was like, this is like, if you want to succeed as a business owner, these are the things that you got to do. You got to work hard. You got to work harder than the person next to you. I was like, yes, you're validating my psychotic work mentality. Someone is finally telling me that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people will be able to relate to that.
Yeah. Too. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that those are my 3 books that will probably always be on my phone, that I will always go back to in my moments of like, what do I need to do?
I like that. Yeah. I have, like, the thing I like about Audible, and I wish they would sponsor this. This would be great.
I know.
But anyways.
Come on, Audible.
It's just they keep, like, the books that you've read, and you can reference them. And there's tons that I've read, I've reflected on, and there's tons that have helped me in like extremely pivotal points. Like there's books that I read or listened to up to the point where I just like up and quit my job.
Yeah.
And like that must have been some book, because that's a pretty crazy thing to do.
And what book was that?
I know that The Leader Who Had No Title was one of them.
Okay.
I really enjoy the Brendan Burchard books and Robin Sharma books. Like those are ones that I really like.
The 5 a.m. Club, again, validated my crazy 4:30 a.m. wake up.
Yeah, it validates
like,
me having a really soft spot in my heart for like really early spin classes or just starting the day early.
Yeah, no, I like the whole like way that he writes that book. That was a little strange to me, but
it's easier for me to consume because it kind of makes me feel like I'm in it more than being preached to.
Yeah, I think that's why, especially with Audible, I like to listen. Like I like to listen to the self-awareness books or business books. I have like a little like quota that I do. I'm like 1 self-awareness, 1 business, and then 1 fun.
I like it.
And but I commute. I live outside of Leduc. I have a 45-minute commute into this location 3 times a week. When I run, I listen to books. I'm going to pretend that I pick up my dog poop, and I don't. But when I pretend to pick up my dog poop, really I'm just like looking at my tortoise in the yard. I'm listening to audiobooks. Like it's that fueling the content. Like if you're constantly feeding yourself the content that goes along with your purpose or your goals, it's gonna help you get there. It's gonna keep you motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even for the podcast, like I listened this weekend, I listened to 9 episodes of the Oprah podcast.
Nice.
Because I had to drive to Lloydminster and back for like a little side job.
Yeah.
And it's just, I listen to other people's stuff to make me better at my stuff.
Yeah. You have to.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the last question that I'm going to segue towards is something that I ask all of my guests, and you might have heard it before. If you could give one piece of advice on how to authentically live your life to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
Just go for it, I guess. I'm sure that's a slogan for some like fitness company somewhere. I guess like Nike's just do it, but mine would be like just go for it. Like I think that too many people get caught up in the what could happen, what should happen, what might happen, that they don't give themselves the opportunity to just see what will happen. I found this location. We're sitting in my downtown location right now. I literally found it 2 weeks before we signed the papers. My Leduc location, I found out about it a month before we signed the papers. There are times where opportunity is begging and knocking at our doors, and we are too blinded by, well, what could happen, what will happen, what might happen. Where I think sometimes you just need to let opportunity in and just go for it and see what happens. Sometimes we may fail. Sometimes we'll succeed and really cool things come out of it. And sometimes when we fail, it's just bringing us to a new opportunity. So too many people, though, I think are stifled by their own fears. So if we just set those aside or move with our fears, I think we just go for it. We just embrace it and we just see what happens. I think that's a pretty fun life.
I agree. That's kind of, if I could lead my life that way, I totally would.
Yeah.
I definitely strive to. That was great advice, and it's been a good chat.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You
this
bet.
is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
And being part of the legacy.
Well, it's a good podcast. I love listening to it.
Thank you.
No problem.
I gotta say, these intros and outros are tricky. Like, what do I say? What do I talk about? First of all, I need to send an invoice to Audible because I don't know what my rate for advertising is, but I advertise the crap out of them. Like, somebody listening to this probably just got an Audible book and I'm just here sitting chatting away. Anyways, I digress. If you enjoyed this episode, it's always really cool to hear from people who listen to it and maybe hear what they liked about it or what stood out. So if you feel brave and bold and you like social media or you have an email address, reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at Christian Little,
Or you can creep me on Facebook, Chris Little. Please don't creep. Just add as a friend. Whatever you got to do. I mean, creeper's going to creep, right? But just, stop it. At the interweb, you can find me via my email address, chris@invigoratetraining.com. I bet if you Googled me, you could find some way to find me. But I can't guarantee it because you'll find lots of cricket players too. Anyways, I'm rambling. Thanks for the support. It means a lot. I put a lot of time and heart and energy and effort into this. So when somebody listens to a podcast, even if it's like one person, like that makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So thank you. And I hope that you look forward to the next episode. It's coming up real quick. It'll be out in like 4 days. So we're just pumping them out this week. Thanks for the support and have a good day.